Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Out on a Limb podcast with the what do we call ourselves? The trio, we can't say Fantastic Five.
Well, we started cracking up because
know,
we're like,
Is this an outtake? We got to
I
start
don't know.
over.
I don't know. We can keep it in. I'm good. Whatever. I don't know. Do we have a name
What's
for
a
us?
good trio?
I don't know. Three Musketeers? I don't
Three
know.
Musketeers, the three, whatever we are.
Three wise men? I don't know.
Will and
Three apostles?
Samantha. And the three wise men?
I don't know. Apostles, wise
Three
men,
apostles,
whatever.
whatever. Okay. There's your laugh for the day. Anyway, and myself.
Hope you guys enjoy this one.
This is a good one. It's lighthearted.
It
because
is.
That's what we were talking about.
we're going to talk about a lighthearted
Yeah.
subject, which is
Yes.
the animal kingdom. All about animals and pets and all of the fun things that we've learned in sessions and talking to them and all of that good stuff.
Yeah. That'll be fun.
So yeah, why don't you start
Oh, boy.
start us off with
Okay.
telling us the difference between when you channel animals and when you channel humans. Like
Cool.
how do
I
they
describe
differ?
that? Okay.
Yeah.
What would be the biggest difference between connecting to a animal versus, say, someone's pet or a farm animal or whatever it might be, versus a human's higher self?
Yeah, how does it feel to you, and what do you experience, and how is it different?
Well, because they have higher selves too, right?
Well, yeah, and that's in essence that's what I'm connecting to is their higher self, their energetic essence. There's a purity about it. There's really a purity about it. It's. I'm not going to say that humans aren't pure, but this is. I would say this is the closest that I would say it would feel when I first started channeling, and source was the primary energy that was coming in. There is, yes, at first it was an overwhelming energy that my body needed to get used to. But once I got used to it, it's everything. This is going to sound corny, but everything and nothing all at the same time. It's everything you would imagine, all emotion, all feeling, everything would be wrapped up into, and it's very heart-centered, very pure, very alive. And so when we started channeling the pets, and we can get into how we came across that, that's what it felt like. And that first connection with the first pet, and it was one of ours, it was one of our cats. It was just this pure essence of love and the closest representation of source that I could say that I'm connecting to. And that's the consistency throughout all the animals, is that initial influx of energy that I get connected to is that source love essence that comes in.
Right.
Even the wasps.
Everything.
Truly, the wasps are the first animal collective that made me cry.
Okay, so we're just, the book.
Yes.
There is a book.
Yes.
The white book there, Love Notes from the Animal Kingdom.
I am
you.
shamelessly plugging that because
Thank you.
it's, when you think of, you're talking about, I'm thinking furry, fluffy thing coming in and
everything.
a puppy and all that. And so all of a sudden it occurred to me, do the wasps even seem like that? And
yes.
that is
They're
so cool.
When the intention is set, and again, we may have covered this in a different episode, but when I set the intention of what I'm going to connect to, whether that's someone's higher self, whether that's someone's pet, whether that's a galactic, whatever it might be that I'm going to be connecting to, and I set that intention and my immediate vibrational connection to it, that's what I remember. Now, throughout the session, there may be things that come up because of what's asked that I don't know what's being asked, but I feel a shift in the energy. And there have been times I've come out of pet sessions, I've come out of people's higher self sessions crying.
Yeah.
I'm not crying at the moment, in the moment. I'm not crying in the session. But as soon as I disconnect from that and I release from that energy, it hits me, and I just feel the purity and the love and the connection that a pet has with their owner. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just an amazing experience. It really is.
And I just wanted to, I'm glad you mentioned the tears, because more often than not, if I see tears coming from his eyes, it happens during a pet session. And more often than not, if I cry during a session as the facilitator, it typically is during
So
a
when
pet
you're
session.
saying tears from my eyes while I'm actually in trance.
Sometimes, yes, I'll see a
I don't
little
even know that, so.
tear starting to form when
Interesting.
you're talking about something very loving, or the overwhelming love that they have for their owner.
Amazing.
I don't like owner, but for their human.
Things that I didn't know.
Yeah. And you've connected. How do you feel when you connect with them?
I don't, it can be different. The most overwhelming, like I wasn't even thinking about it until you started talking about that. But my stepmother, Bernie, was asking, well, can you connect with, like, is Jake here? She loved this dog, Jake, and big black dog. And so I'm like, well, I'll see if I can tune it, because I don't know. Let me see if I can tune into him. And so I feel his presence. And, she's like, well, is he here? And I still, like, this still gets me, because he gives me a message to tell her, and I feel him filling up my heart.
Yes.
And it's like, you didn't know your heart could contain, it feels like it's going to burst. And I'm sitting there, I've never, ever had a problem delivering a message in a reading. I had to put my head between my hands several times and just cry, because it was so that overwhelming love, know. And I finally said, it was so funny. He's here. He's always here in your heart. He's like physically next to me too, or energetically, but he's always here in your heart.
Right.
That's what he needed her to understand. And that just, it was such a relief to get that out, because it was such an important message. But that was incredible. So the love is just, like you said, it's so pure, unadulterated, it's just, because it only goes one way. It's not like, and I'm not saying that, like, souls who cross over hold back or anything like that, but they still have personality. I mean, and pets do too, but it's still, there's still an essence, and maybe we just don't feel it quite the same way because of the humanness that we can sense from them. Because, conversely, if you have an angelic being come, reside with you, doesn't that just blow you away? It is among that kind of feeling. It's that angelic.
Right.
But I've channeled Jesus, and that it's not that's bliss.
Right. Yeah.
Bliss and this feeling. So it's neat to be able to discern the difference,
That is interesting.
Two totally different feelings. This is just
that's what I enjoy, and this is, I'll say encompassing for all of the work that I do as far as the channeling, and you're alluding to it, is that it's the refinement. The more you do, the more it refines, and you can really pick out the nuances, right? You can pick out, okay, yep, I know what this is. I know what that is. And it builds a memory of, okay, oh, yep, that was Jesus. Oh, yep, that was source. Oh, yep, that was this. Oh, yep, that was that. And then you can, so then when I come out of a session, Allison's, well, how was that energy? I can, I've got my Rolodex of, okay, well, I know what came in, or this came in, or sometimes I don't, because it's such a rush of energy. So it's
more often than not, you can feel the difference in the energy,
shifting,
but you don't know who it was.
Right.
Or whatever.
That makes sense to me now.
But in terms of love notes, what sparked this really was, we have 3 cats.
Shamelessly plug the book here. So.
But it's so important for people, because these messages are so profound, like you said. That it changes someone's world when you can connect them to their pet. And it's really fun to do it when they're alive, which is primarily what we do when the animals
you have
are
a different
alive.
Awareness and adjustment to that awareness.
Right, and it changes the relationship between them. So if you're having an animal with a behavior problem, or an illness or something like that, and you can connect with them on a different level, then it shifts that whole dynamic of the relationship.
So let me share that. We have a cat that is 18 years old now. She's a Siamese, like snowshoe kind of kitty, and she is the bitchiest cat. I mean, we call her the shitty kitty. Like, she's just, I mean, she you go and pet her, and then she bites you. And my husband says that's doing shitty. There's being shitty. I mean, there's like all kinds of, and I can never quite tell. And he keeps trying to explain to me the differences,
That's funny.
nuances. But anyway, so this cat, I'm like, she is so unhappy with her life with us. You know, what is the deal? And she does come up and curl up, but then she does this other stuff that makes you just like, if she puts her teeth on you, she doesn't really bite down, but she'll leave some of her spit and it's like something died. Like it is just awful. But anyway, so I came to y'all for the reading.
Yep.
And oh my God, like it was the craziest thing, because I was like, the question was asked, is there anything that I can do that will make you happy?
Sure.
That, well, of course, what can I do? I feed you, I clean your poop. What else do you need?
Right.
And her response back was, I mean, like really thoughtful, really thinking through, through will. She responds, I have food. I have a comfortable place to lay my head. I don't think she brought up the litter, but, and she named a couple of things and she said, I'm happy. Like she's really happy. So when I went home having this new awareness that like this just profound feeling of happiness, I go home and all of a sudden I am seeing all these joyous moments. Like she comes up and she just communes with us.
Aww.
And it's just this, it's a whole different level of intimacy now.
It's amazing. Yes, intimacy is the word. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
So when we had a challenging behavior problem with one of our cats, it was to the point where I couldn't take it any longer and we were seriously considering rehoming the cat.
Oh no.
Because my
You
stress
were
level.
considering rehoming.
Well, we have one. If anyone wants a tabby, we got it.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you about that after. We may be in the market for another cat.
We'll see.
Oh, he's gone from no to we'll see.
There's progression on the chart.
Things
Yes.
of-
Oh my goodness. Okay. Anyway, so Dasher was the name of that cat, and we talked to not only that cat but the other two as well. And from that point on, Dasher's relationship with us changed dramatically, and it made me more compassionate, because when you talk to them on a soul-to-soul level, it makes you more compassionate. So even if the behavior doesn't change overnight or it takes some work, it changes the dynamic, and you have a different understanding of it. Yeah. Just the same way as if you have a child, and you understand where they're coming from.
And a couple points there is that, that was just an experiment. That was one of those times where
I basically said,
you didn't know.
Will can channel and talk to humans and other energies. Maybe he can talk to animals. Why not? So I said, we're at the end of our rope. Let's try it. And it worked.
Yeah, and it worked. Yeah. And, but the more I think about this, I wonder if it's truly, yes, we're connecting to the pet, right? We're connecting to the pet and bringing forth that information. But it's true. The session really, truly is for the pet owner. Meaning it's
the animal's fine regardless.
Absolutely. It's changing the wiring up here about the relationship that you have with the animal.
Which changes the energy.
Which changes the energy in the home.
Sure, but it's like anything. When you understand, like if there's a driver and they cut you off, if you really knew what was going on in their life or what was happening, when you have a deeper understanding of anyone or any animal, then you can be more compassionate, right? Because you understand. And so it's about giving understanding to the human about what's happening. And it's so amazing. So after that session, we thought, this is so profoundly healing that we have to try. We have to make this available for people. And so our first practice session with somebody that wasn't us was two friends of ours. They have 5 rescue dogs. And
in various states of age and various states of health.
And the neat thing about that is when you do one after the next, you can actually see the change in personality come through Will.
Oh yeah.
Very evidently.
He did 4 of my cats, so all very different.
And so those 2 friends of ours were so blown away, and they said, that is exactly that dog, and that is exactly that dog, and that's exactly what they would have said. And they were just flabbergasted. And so at that point we were like, we have got to offer this to people. And so we started doing channeling sessions for pets. And about a year into it, I was getting so much good information that would help people. Like, what about euthanasia? What about animals that have been abused? Like, how can we help them? how do animals find us? How do they know when we're coming home? Just silly things like that. What do they think about the dog they live with, or all of that kind of stuff? Do they prefer being outdoors or indoors? All of those kinds of things were coming up. And past lives like this, I had no idea. We were experimenting with all of these things. And so
why not go there?
until we had an animal who had a behavior issue that stemmed from a past life, and I didn't even know to ask that, but the animal took us to a past life. And whenever Will looks over to his left, he's looking at these past lives. And so the animal did that. And I was like, what?
Was that, that wasn't Sasha, was it? Or
I don't think that was our first.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly which one was the first past life. Oh, maybe it was the one who had seizures.
Oh, okay.
From in 3 previous lives, this dog had died by
gunshot, right?
Gunshots,
Yeah.
I think.
Geez.
Yeah.
It was different animals.
That would
not
Yeah,
a
different.
dog.
It wasn't a dog, but it was
like
3
a bear
different. Yeah,
and
like
some other stuff.
wildlife.
I remember you guys talking about that, the bear. Like that he, okay.
And so the dog, I'm feeling my way because I didn't know to ask this. I know to ask this now about past lives, but I didn't know. So I'm feeling my way. And this story's in the book.
Yeah.
But this dog would have a seizure when there was a loud noise or something. And then come to find out that in 3 past lives, the animal would hear a bang and see a flash. And next thing he knew, he was out of the body and in another body. And so it scared him when he would see a flash or hear a loud noise. And so he would fall over for a minute and have a brief seizure and then pop back up. And so the pet mom came to see us and come to find out that's what it was. And once the animal recognized that that's what it was, the seizures went away. The dog literally stopped having seizures. Wow. It was crazy. So those were the kind of things that we wanted people to know about and put in the book. It's really, really helpful.
It's because this is, sorry, this isn't an infomercial for the
really
book.
Wasn't.
But it does sound like
I
it.
started with it. I brought
but it is, but it is very profound. The amount of healing that takes place, and and the information, the depth of the information that you've been able to, facilitate through a session.
And all the work that we're doing, it's ultimately not just for, oh, well, that's interesting. It's for healing.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's for awareness,
Yeah.
understanding,
Yeah.
and ultimately healing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember how the collectives came about, but at some point we realized that we could talk to collectives of animals, and wasps were one of the first ones. Bees and wasps.
Yeah.
You have a great story about that, but
Yeah.
the wasps literally they made me cry. And the reason they made me cry is because when you talk to the consciousness of a living being, and they explain again their perspective and their point of view.
Yeah.
And I realized, how many wasps have I killed? And did I think twice about it and would I care? No. And he saw me. That wasp, the collective of wasps, saw me for who I am. And I was laid bare in front of this wasp, another living consciousness. And the profundity of that literally made me cry. I could barely continue to talk.
Yeah.
And I would not say that I would never kill a wasp again, but I would never do it without thinking about it first or trying other options first.
Yeah.
Because it's
well, and now it's crazy is after you told me that, I go into my son's room days, maybe a week later or something, and he's got this glass jar upside down. I'm like, what are you doing? And he goes, well, there's a wasp. He goes, it's not a wasp, it's a mud dauber or whatever. And I'm like, who cares? It's it's got the long legs and I'm like, what are you doing with it? And he goes, well, I was just waiting for it to get tired, and then I was going to take it outside and let it go. I was sitting there going, what?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you got a fly swatter up here, swat the thing.
Yeah.
No, Mom, I'm not going to do that. And so he goes and he takes it and he lets the thing go. I can't kill them now. I cannot. I'm all about grabbing pieces of paper and guiding them to their freedom. And even now cockroaches, like I sit there, spiders. No, because I sit there and I'm just like, I know, I literally, I'm in a moment. My foot's coming down. I know that I'm taking their life. I'm ending their existence, their consciousness. I can't do this. Look the other way. It's like, that's horrible. Like, it's just ridiculous.
Cockroaches are challenging for me because they freak me out. But I do say I'm sorry.
They have their purpose too.
I do say I'm sorry.
I
Go with
agree.
God, little
I
Richie.
agree with everything you're saying.
However,
However,
that's a
He
big
goes,
however.
he tells me, he goes, don't you dare channel a cockroach.
if
He didn't want
I don't think my conscious or my subconscious would allow that to happen. I have PTSD because of cockroaches.
Yes,
so
you do.
I don't know.
Understandable,
We have
but
it.
dude, you got to go there because maybe
I
it'll
know.
heal.
Sure, that's
you
a
know?
good point. Good point.
It's I.
God, it just.
But at
We all
some,
have cockroaches. It's like,
If you want to understand what a cockroach is, come down to South Carolina. We'll show you what a cockroach is.
yeah, and those suckers fly.
Yes.
they're huge.
That's why.
That's not fair.
That's
It's
why
like
I have
they're-
PTSD.
We call them palmetto bugs.
Oh
though,
yes,
because that's
pretty them up
pure-
all you want. They're still a cockroach.
Ugh. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, the collectives. That was. It was shortly after the Bee and Wasp Collective. I think we were teaching a Reiki class, and we had the one lady that was in a
wasp whisperer.
the Wasp Whisperer.
She is something.
We talked about
Heard
what-
of like bee whispers.
No,
but-
we talked about what we had channeled, and she said, "Oh my God, I got to show you this video." And she's got this sizable wasp or hornet nest. No, wasp, but not hornets. They were wasps, the ones that make the little circular thing up in your corners and your
Mhm.
eaves. Well, this was in between her storm door and her front door. And she said, I just stood there one day and I started talking to them, and they just kind of looked at me.
They did. She had a picture of this one.
So
Oh
she
my gosh.
opened the door
Was-
and stood there, and just, you could see her hand go, and she was just talking to them, and they
They did not sting her.
didn't sting her.
They literally were crawling on her hand,
Yeah.
and she had the cutest picture of this one just looking in the window at her. It was
Yeah.
unbelievable.
And I'm like, it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's what it really comes down to, is it really, we talk about how we connect to our animals and how we, do all this stuff, but it's, are we really connecting to our animals? Do we really, are we just saying we're connecting to our animals, or are we actually using the tools that we understand to
Mhm.
connect to our animals? And I think through this process, through channeling and the clients, during the channeling, they are actually connecting in a energetic way that they wouldn't otherwise have a chance to experience. And
Mhm.
that's the profound aspect of it, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like the wasps or bees or whatever it might be, or whatever other ants and spiders and
early on when we started channeling these collectives, I asked them, I said, it sounds like I'm talking to one being. And they said, you are talking to one being, but we are a collective. And so this information is automatically absorbed and understood by all
Like the
bees or
hive mind
all.
mentality.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Like
Like the
the
hive.
You're right,
Yes, like-
exactly.
So
Yeah.
hive mind is not a negative aspect. It can be used that way sometimes, but it's not. That's what we technically are, this universal consciousness that
Yeah.
we're creating
Yeah,
is kind of like that.
That's what we are.
for sure.
That makes sense.
So it's really interesting. And so we've talked to a number of animals, and so that book is divided into sections. The first part are chapters that talk about reincarnation and incarnation and pet siblings and health and all of that sort of stuff. The middle are actual full transcripts of those profound sessions, like Sasha the bomb sniffing dog, and the one with the seizures.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the last are the collectives, the special kind of wild animal collectives.
Mhm.
And I purposefully selected ones that were, I use the word rebuked, the ones that people are
Yeah.
afraid of, because they need to hear from them and understand that they have a consciousness as well, and that they're here purposefully to help humanity, like
Yeah.
snakes
Oh yeah,
and rats,
yeah.
and
So
the
you did
wasps.
snakes and rats, but you won't do a cockroach. I'm just,
Sure.
just
Okay,
saying.
judge us. Go ahead, judge us.
I'm 6'4", 54-year-old man, and I will run like a 12-year-old girl if there's a cockroach around
That
me.
is the truth.
Yeah.
So
That is
yes,
the truth.
Okay, so slightly different from that.
Yeah.
Have you done like Reiki sessions and stuff with animals?
we have not.
We don't do a lot of that. Sometimes we'll do
Okay.
that with our animals.
You guys,
Yeah.
you guys got to open up those. So my first experience working with an animal, this is before I even like did readings with
Yeah.
animals. A client said, my horse is just so messed up.
Yes.
I've got this vet coming.
Horses.
and he's just, we don't know what to do. He has some, like, I'm worried that his stomach, his intestines are going to get twisted, all this other kind of stuff. And I'm, hey, I don't know what I can do until I do it. So I'll come out and meet you. So I go out to the stable, and I'm trying to look like I know what I'm doing, but I told her I didn't know. And so, I'm just petting the horse, and then I just kind of was following wherever my hand was taking me. And then I started putting my hands around the barrel of the horse, towards the back part. And I have not, yes, I've had horses and been around horses, but I don't really know all their insides. I just knew that's where my hands wanted to go. And I started seeing like bubbles, and I'm going, okay, this is interesting. There's bubbles going on there. And then, it's kind of like I could see that the lining was very irritated, inflamed, like the intestine. And I'm kind of going, okay, this is cool, because I'm seeing this, in my mind's eye. Yeah. And all of a sudden, this story unfolds. It's like, just like, okay. And then what happened? Okay, And so this horse communicates somehow to me this whole story about how when he is in his stall at night, along with the other horses, but he is picked out for whatever reason. When he is in his stall, the stable hand comes through, they feed all of them. The horses, they'll have their heads in a bucket, eating the good stuff. And this guy will come along, and he'll just yell and bang against the stall door. So the horse is in the middle of eating, and then suddenly is freaked out. Startled, yeah. Yeah, that's a better word. It's like, so, this has been going on for who knows how long. And, I'm kind of going, whoa. And I'm like, this is pretty cool. So I relay this story to them, and I'm like, I can't make this stuff up like that. Sure. Just like, why would I, So I don't hear anything from the owner for a while. And I told her a couple of other things. I didn't hear from the owner for a while. And then she reaches out to me and she says, thank you so much. She said, we put a camera up.
Oh my gosh.
They recorded the guy doing it, and he was fired on the spot.
Oh really?
And I was just like, goosebumps, man. That was, and I've seen that horse. I don't think he's still around, but like about 10 years later, I saw him out at this other stable where they had moved him out to. And it was just like, right. It's like a part of that, So it's really cool. And I don't have this listed on my site, but somebody was telling me, well, if you can do that, why don't you do other healings on them and tell people things? And so I was like, I don't know what to do. And she goes, just feel it out. And so I created this thing called tri-dimensional healing. And I don't really, I'm in the process of learning, but I can do this. And it's like kind of cool, where I just, I will tune into the various chakras of the animal, whatever like highlights to me. And so I'm finding some minor chakras. I don't know anything about animal chakras, but so I've looked it up and gone, oh my God, look, it's there.
It actually exists.
And so I have gone along, and when I hit these points, I'm given stories about what's going on. Wow. Too much pressure, the owner keeps pushing them away, whatever it is, I'm catching all of this stuff. Like with horses, it's huge. Because it's really in the withers. And with horses, I've gotten that, and this was channeling a horse that had passed away, where I began to understand that when humans, and even, when they're really connected with a human, it's like the human becomes almost a part of their brainstem, like part of their nervous system. And so when that person's walking away, a horse they're either very trusting, or they have that sense of loss, depending on what their relationship is like. But when someone has that relationship and they're riding their horse, it's a whole other worldly experience. You are connected, and that's how Native Americans rode horses.
And it's what plays through my mind as you're saying that, it's the whole aspect of Avatar.
I was just thinking that.
Oh yeah.
Right? They connect into the animal, right? And they're like, they connect in and they're one. They become one, right?
And so that's the process. So this tri-dimensional healing, I would go through, feel these things out, and I just, I don't do it in front of the person. I just do it as I have them send me a picture, and so I could just feel those things out, and then tell them the stories of what was going on, what was creating that blocked energy. And And then, I would do some, what I guess is Reiki, because I'm perceiving the area and I'm asking for the energy to move.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing, but it seems to make a difference.
Perfect.
And the owners have such a better understanding of what they're doing. So anyway,
that's awesome.
yeah, I'd be doing that more.
Do you feel that you might have, that your sessions are stronger if you're in person with the animal versus, or are they equally?
No,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
I mean, I personally, I'm a very tactile person.
Yeah.
So, and if I can get around a horse,
Yeah.
I drove, for one client, I drove, an hour plus to get out to her farm.
I remember that.
Yeah. And I only charge her like one way, and I spent extra time there because I had so much fun dealing with her animals. Because I like that. I just love to feel them. But am I getting anything different? No.
Yeah.
So it's just for my enjoyment.
Yeah. And for our sessions, we don't have the animal in front of us at all.
Do you have a picture? Do you have, okay.
And so
I just find that helps to anchor it in.
That's exactly right. So and again, it's the evolution process, right? For my modality. And before when it first started, I would take the picture of the animal, the name, the breed, the age, the gender, all of that on a piece of paper along with the picture. And I'd sit up here and it wasn't like I'd study it, but I'd look at it for just a minute or two, just to connect, right? Fold it up. And then I'd lay down for a 30-minute meditation, just connecting to that animal. And now it's evolved to where I come up, I connect the same process, and I just connect to their higher self, and I allow their higher self to enter into this space and be surrounded and comforted. And I know they're here. And then we start the session, and it's such a beautiful aspect. And it's that process of connecting to the animal and then bringing forth that information. You mentioned it, I think, before we started. I don't think it's actually on the video, but it's that how my whole, and you alluded to it with the different personalities, the whole demeanor of my persona changes. Right? I've seen I don't watch all the sessions, but I've seen pieces of the sessions, and I'm like, that is not me. What the heck is?
You'll either do this or you get me.
Right. It's so interesting. So you hear my voice this way, but you tune into one of those animal channelings, and it's not me.
So interesting because I'll stare at him, and I've seen him for 35 years at least, right? And I stare at him, and I literally am not that I see an animal superimposed over
but you can almost see a tail wagging.
I feel like
I'm lifting my leg at the heightened, right?
I do feel like I'm talking to that animal. I mean, it is just like I'm talking to that animal. He's gone and the animal's there. It's wild.
Well, see, and I don't get that. Like, I get that loving whatever.
Sure.
And I get sort of like, I did just offhanded, we'd been drinking a bit, and we're at a lake, and a friend of my little sister's was just like, well, can you connect with my dog that died? It was a Chihuahua apparently. So I'm like, well, there's this little dog here. She goes, yep, that's him. And I'm like, and he was snarky. So I did get the snarkiness, but it doesn't come through me. I'm just relaying the personality. Sure. And I'm like, you thought it was awfully cute, and he gets that, but he really didn't like you dressing him up in these little shirts. She died laughing, There was a couple of things like that was just particular to him that was just, so snarky.
Made it legit.
Yeah. And so that was enjoyable. Yeah. But I don't, of course, I'm not changing. I'm not channeling it. So I'm not embodying it. But I can still feel somewhat of the personality. So now I'm curious, because as you were talking about that, we all perceive things differently and given slightly different perspectives. So I don't necessarily expect this to align, because I was going, do I ask this? And then, but you might not have the same experience or whatever. But so I've had a couple of people ask me to do readings of dogs. And I had one couple in particular that they were trying to decide when it was time to euthanize their dog. And of course, we all want that permission.
Yep.
We all want to know, and it still is never definite even then. But it helps the owner to have that conversation. So what was interesting, they apparently had this big German Shepherd, and I was explaining to him what he feels, when when they're taking him out to go to the bathroom, that it's challenging and all that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden, I don't know why, but he projected this future, whatever. I don't know how to explain this. He let me know it was okay whenever they decided to let him go. And he gave me like this, I see images and stuff, and he's showing me this reel of him. And he's like, he's telling me that he's just going to continue being right along by your side, that he's not going anywhere. He's just going to have the awareness of not being in pain, and he's just going to be walking along, but it's going to be like nothing. It's just, he's going to be walking alongside you. And I thought, whoa, like dogs, just like how many dogs have anybody had in their lives? And, so no, they're not just going the Rainbow Bridge. They're hanging out, waiting, right alongside.
A piece of them remains behind. Sure, they may transition, but a piece of that bond still remains. We have 2 cats that we've had to put down. They're still in the house.
Oh yeah, they're upstairs.
They're upstairs running around, and we hear them.
But here's the thing: it's different with a cat. I think, like dogs, they're by your side.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Cat.
Cats are still independent.
Yes, they're still doing. Because I had this one client who wanted me to. She just was bereft with her cat Sam, and so she called me several times asking me to connect, and I think I had referred her to y'all. And she was really having a hard time with this, but. And it's funny because I kept wanting her cat to just curl up and give her attention. I'm like, well, your cat's kind of hanging out over to this side, and he's just like watching you, just kind of, in the sun, just hanging out. And I'm thinking that's not going to be very satisfying. She's like, oh, he always loved to be over there. And I'm like, oh,
well, good. That's why you should always say it.
Well, yeah, but it's like you want them to just be all cuddly and everything, but that's not the way the cat was.
That's not how the cat's going to be.
Yeah. So it's very cool. And also, because then they're like, well, that one died. Do I get another one? And she was in that situation, and her cat Sam was just like, no, it's time. What are you waiting for?
Right.
And then when she brought the other cat in, Sam said he was going to hang out and be more present for a while. And then he was going to kind of just back off because she needed to focus her energy. She needed to allow that bond to relax and focus on. So have you had conversations about that? Because people can get really tied up into their animal.
I mean, Allison would be better to answer that than I would. I mean,
in terms of what exactly?
Well, just their bonds and the connection they have on the human, on the living side.
Well, we just had a session that was kind of interesting because one of her questions was, are you with me? Are you hanging around? I sense you sometimes, but not a lot. And she was pretty in touch. She could tell. And I think, was it a dog? I think it was a dog. And he said, yeah, I am there all the time. I'm there with you all the time. But what she also asked was, well, was that you just the other day? Early in the morning, I heard a squeaky toy. The squeaky toy made a noise in the living room. I had to get up and look at it. There's nobody else in the house. I saw the squeaky toy on the floor, and I know it made a noise. I heard it. Was that you? And he said, yes. And what was interesting was, it takes a lot of, and this as being a medium, it takes a lot of energy for them to physically move and shift things in the physical plane when they're a spirit. But he said what made that happen was the good, positive thoughts, more energy that you can accumulate as a human being. Like she, over that day, I guess, was thinking of him a lot and thinking of funny stories and the fun times that they had together and all of the fun stuff. And it was building her up and building her up. And that energy is what he used to smash that squeaky toy and make a noise for her. And he said, that was so much fun. Do it again. The more, if you're not in grief and you're having fun and you're thinking of all the fun things that we did together, that gives me the energy and the momentum. And he goes, I think I want to try that some more. So I might be trying to move more things.
Oh my God, that's cool.
It was cool.
But see, that goes along with people when they have a loved one who crosses. The experience that I've had with that is that whenever they're just like all of a sudden overwhelmed and in tears, it's because the loved one's presence, they decided to come in, and then they're just like, well, if I'm going to cause you to be in tears every time, I'm going to just back off. And it's like hard to explain to people. It's why it's like you got to go through the grieving process, move through it, then look for them, so it's the same thing with the animal.
The joyous aspects of remembrance of their experience.
Because the grief can mask the synchronicities. It can mask the messages. They're putting messages out, but you can't see them.
And they don't want to hurt you further. They don't want to see you in tears.
Right.
Which reminds me also, I want to make sure people understand not to compound the grief with guilt. Because I just had a good friend who had 2 dogs pass in a couple of months, I think, and she had to put them both down at the end of their life, and that inevitably makes you feel guilty. Did I wait too long and let them suffer, or did I not wait long enough and they could have had a few more?
One more day,
right?
It's not like you're waiting for grandchildren when it's a cat.
Yeah, and the animals have said over and over, do not compound the grief with guilt. We trust you. When we come in, we know that we're supposed to be with you. They know that. And so we trust you completely. And whatever decision you make is fine, whether it's to dress me up for Halloween or whatever. Most of the animals that I've dealt with,
we're hanging
heard
with it.
from, said they don't care as long as it makes you happy.
Yeah. We'll speak to that aspect of, the transition point and, having to put an animal down, talk to everybody about that, because I think that's an important aspect, because I think a lot of us that have animals, whether it's a dog or a cat or a house pet or a large animal that you might have, we had goats, or people might have horses or something else.
Even flushing a fish down the toilet.
Right, something.
That is a tough one.
Right. So all those different aspects, talk to everybody about that, because I think that's an important aspect of what's come through,
the transition.
The transition, and maybe the having to put, assist their transition, that kind of
Well, they don't mind you assisting. They trust you again. So it's important that if you sense it, and they will communicate it to you when they're ready. If you're sensitive to that, they will communicate it, and trust yourself, and they trust you to make the right decision. But they have told us they understand the grief that we go through, but they want us to know that the 2 happiest times of their life are when they come into a body and when they leave the body. And the reason is because when they leave the body, they understand more than we do that they don't die, that they just change form. So they understand where they're going. They've done this before, and they stay connected to source. So that's why they can see these past lives, and they understand that they don't really die. They keep coming back. So they know that once they get back to the all, they're going to get to do this again. And it'll be in a lively new body and a new experience with a new situation and maybe a new family. And so it's exciting to them. They understand it. But it is not to diminish the pain that they understand the human is going to have at their absence in the physical body. They understand that, and they want to comfort us. But they want us to know, yes, not to grieve. They get it that we have to, but they don't want us to grieve about them, not for long.
Right.
Wow.
Because they are always with us.
Yeah.
And they're happy where they are. They're good. They're happy. They're having fun. They're up there with all of the other pets. If you've had other pets, or you've had grandparents that have passed, or whatever, they're up there with everybody having a good time.
Yeah. And I, for all we've had a mess of chickens, 2 goats.
That's what they call it.
A couple.
It's not a flock anymore. It's
a
mess.
A mess of chicken. I don't know. And several
It sounds so much more gentrified.
Right.
I've got a mess of
chickens.
It's a Southern thing.
Right. And I'm not Southern, but and 2 cats that we've had to help transition. Before I start any pet session, I invoke them first. I bring them in to help and assist me through the process, because they're part of what I do. I mean, we've channeled all of the animals that I've spoken about, all of our pets. I've channeled them. And so I look upon them as
emissaries?
my guides. Yeah. Right. They're here assisting me, helping bring in that dog or that cat or whatever animal it might be. So their energy is present in this space before I bring in someone's pet, to ease that process of bringing their energy in here, because there's other animals here. That's the way I look at it. That's what I have in my head when I do it. So that's
interesting.
It's an interesting aspect that I go through before I do start a session.
So I hear things like this, and I'm like, maybe I should start doing that. I mean, because it still works. It's just coming at it from a different way. But
Yeah.
who knows?
Yeah.
That could be fun,
Yeah.
like really fun to do.
Yeah.
Oh
It
my
is.
God.
Everything with the animals is fun. I have to tell this funny story that's not in the book. Is in a recent pet session, we had an animal that I think it was a dog, and the human said, "My dog has something going on digestively. I've taken him to the vet. They can't figure it out. But the next step is we either have to do an ultrasound or exploratory surgery because he's not eating and whatever."
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I'll try this pet session and see if you can figure out what's going on. So the dog starts telling me about the orbs all in the room that he can see, and a lot of animals can see. All animals can see them, and most of them talk to us about it. But they can, because when they come in the treehouse, they see all these orbs and they get distracted. They're looking around at all the orbs of little energies. They're just little energies that bounce around in the house. And a lot of times, if you see your animal chasing something and you don't know what it is, it's probably they're chasing one of these orbs. So come to find out, the orbs are at the same level as this little dog. And he said, sometimes I just go, and I swallowed one. Well, not only did he swallow one, he swallowed two. He swallowed two orbs, and he didn't realize it had bothered him. And they weren't hurting him, but they were filling up his stomach such that he couldn't eat. He didn't want to eat.
Yeah, that's not going to figure that one out.
Right.
It was wild. That was the first time I'd ever heard of that before. I knew about orbs and that they would chase them, but I didn't realize
I didn't think
that
you could eat one.
swallow one.
Oh my
So
goodness.
I walked him through this. I said, do you want to let that go? And he's like, yeah, I think that would be a good idea. So I walked him through this process of allowing that orb to come up, and out. And Will actually opens his mouth. And this, I guess this thing came out. I didn't see anything, but something came out because the dog is better and feeling better and saved hundreds of dollars on a vet bill. It was crazy. I said, you see these orbs all the time. Please don't eat any more of them. And he said, I don't think I will.
I love that.
It was funny. I mean, yeah.
Oh.
Every time you think you've seen it all,
Right.
like you said, you think you've seen
Yeah,
it all.
you think
and
you've seen it.
Well, and I would love to get, okay, this might be a one for a different topic sometime, but about the energy, like, when you're around animals and the energy you contain, how they are transmuting that energy, how they are taking it in, how they're transmuting it, or maybe that's a short topic, but that's a huge thing because it really affects them, but they're there to do that process for us. It's just that we can, if, when I channel, it's so funny because BB is always saying, you humans are so messy with your energy. Mm-hmm. Like she just calls them out on it. And the thing is, you're messy with it and you just keep, the intensity of it or whatever. And the animal's trying to transmute it. And sooner or later, it can overwhelm the animal, which is what happened to our poor kitty cat a couple of weeks back. And that was because
running too late for you.
No,
Yeah,
I don't
really.
know where that came from. Sorry, there's a little yawn there. Sorry,
I think it was an orb.
Right. Residual orb.
Sorry,
apparently.
my story is so thrilling. Anyway.
Sorry.
Oh my goodness.
But anyway,
this is a crazy one.
He there was just something where because like he was hanging out with me constantly to try to get me to be calm, like Zen kitty and stuff.
Yes. Yes.
So and his UTI, they say that some cats, they're just more prone to UTIs because of stress. And I'm like, the cat is the alpha in the house. We have the cat on medication. The cat has everything the cat could want.
What's stressful?
So me, because I was feeling such overwhelmed and he was hanging out with me.
Yeah.
So, I got him through his emergency and, he ended up getting shaved because of IVs and I feel so sad for him on all that. But I kept thinking, I know I did this. I could feel it. And I was like, I am so sorry.
But again,
it was an awareness.
Don't load yourself down with guilt.
Yes, but it was an awareness thing.
But it is to be aware.
To realize, that you can overwhelm them and that while they're there to handle this stuff, sometimes we can let our lives just go ridiculously out of control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when they do get sick, it's just another sign of, if you could stop and think about it, okay, my pet's sick. What is it in the environment?
Right.
It's not just the pesticides or the, or the food. It's a lot of times because we create our own illness, they transmute. It's going to cause them to have issues. So
perfect.
I just find that really fascinating.
No, I agree with that 100%. And it's interesting. Like we have a little orange cat, and if anybody's wants a very affectionate cat,
We're trying to get rid of all of
we're
our
not
cats
giving
here.
we're not getting
No,
rid of the cat. But
Oh.
if you want an affectionate cat, it's going to be a male orange cat.
Oh, really?
They're the best.
They are the most affectionate.
Not the smartest, but the best.
True.
Okay, wait. My male tabby, he's smart and affectionate. So they just
Is he orange?
No, he's gray.
He's gray.
And he's
right.
just as sweet. They're like
I don't know. I've had.
I
Cats
don't know.
all my life.
Orange.
Anyway,
orange is
There's
their
something
thing.
about orange cats.
anyway,
Gingers.
yeah, exactly.
It's because the hair. You're identifying there.
Well, a little,
Okay.
well,
He
a
is.
little, yeah. But he's been at times he'll sleep right here on your
On my
crown,
head,
right,
yeah.
like right across and
Oh.
fall asleep there, or he'll come
God
over,
only knows what he's
Right,
healing
what-
or clearing
right,
off my
exactly.
crown chakra.
or he doesn't normally lay on me, but that's what you bring up is a great point. That's what I'm becoming more aware of is when he spends more time sleeping on me at
Mhm.
night, where he typically doesn't because I'm very restless. I tend to sleep much more sound. I typically sleep through the night without getting up, and he's on me the entire night. And so,
That's so
I've
cool.
become aware of that. I've become aware, okay, when I do sense him, I'm like, all right, I'm just going to let him be there because I'm not going to move him. I'm just going to let him sleep and let him do his
Mhm.
work because he's doing something for me that obviously I'm not doing for myself. So, kind of word to the wise, those that have pets, cats, dogs, whatever, and they want to get with you and curl up with you and be on you,
They're doing it for a reason.
they're doing it for a reason,
Yeah,
for sure.
those
Well,
sweethearts.
And then I was just thinking, you come up here to meditate, right?
Allison
Or do
doesn't
you
as
mean
much.
before
I do sometimes, yeah.
Do you find I find every time I meditate, one of the cats, they'll fight to get in my lap.
Yeah.
Like who gets the lap? Because when you're pulling that energy through your body, they're just like, oh, I'll have me some of that. Ooh.
Yeah.
before we built this space, and that's when I first started doing my channeling, we were doing it in the house, and we'd gather 14, 15 people in the house in the kitchen area. And the cats do not like large groups of people in the house.
No.
As soon as I would drop into trance, there's some of my early
Gonna hear them.
audio that you can hear them meow, meow, and
the
they're
microphone, yeah.
wanting to be right in the midst of all
Running
of it.
around the
Yeah,
microphone and
yeah.
on us.
So they're very energy.
So cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You
for
can
sure.
see why, the whole thing of witches and
Yeah.
having, black cats were just probably an affectation,
Right,
but, but you could see why they would want to have
Yeah,
cats around.
yeah.
There's just that.
There's an energy of a cat for sure.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with dogs.
Oh, no.
no.
I just happen to be a cat person.
Me too.
All of them. Horses are the best to talk
Yes.
to.
Oh,
yes.
They're fun to talk to. They're so
Well,
wise.
Donkeys too, though.
Donkeys
You
are fun and
can't
funny.
discount donkeys.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
But horses are quite wise. And
I haven't talked to a donkey, but I did
Independent.
learn something when I was down. It was on Bonaire in the Caribbean,
Mhm.
wherever. They have a bunch of wild donkeys that were left by the Spanish.
I think I saw that picture. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Like I thought that was so fascinating. Well, this woman said, I'll take a donkey over a horse any day because they
Really?
don't try to kick you. They listen to you. They follow, unlike a mule, they are just the most faithful,
Yeah.
loyal creatures.
they really are.
So, but it'd be interesting to do a mule and see if that responded the same. I
Good
have
point.
a feeling that
Good point.
because they're the most ornery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't know about that.
Our donkeys were quite,
Donkey?
no,
You mean goats?
our
Hello.
goats. Our goats were quite ornery as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Very
they're
honored.
made of the same stuff as.
But they were fun. They were. I
Yeah,
love them.
yeah.
I miss them.
For sure.
Oh gosh, what another fun topic
It was a
this
good one.
was.
Yeah,
crazy
this is a good
talk.
one.
But it was going to be fun because we're talking about animals.
That's right.
so it
And
always makes it.
And we
fun.
were quite goofy and silly.
Yeah.
Forgive us. We
Yeah.
had one of those.
I think everybody will enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the real side of us. That's all.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll put
Just
out.
wait till the camera goes off.
We'll put out an outtakes one of these days.
Maybe. Exactly.
But thanks to all of you guys. And if you have some fun pet stories that you want to share with us, put it in the comments and let us know.
For sure.
Talk about your bond with your animal.
Mhm.
And until next time, thanks so much. Share away, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.